So, so that you all hear the same thing, we're going to stick roughly to the same script. Thank you for staying. You know that over the last few weeks in our preaching, we've been mentioning stewardship and caring for our resources as individuals, as a church family, but wider than that, really, our whole lives. Through the presentation, you're going to see photographs of people you may well recognise, also images from across our parish. Not buildings, but the beautiful area that we live in and the people that are a part of it. Our stewardship season isn't about buildings or budgets. It's about a place, a people, and a shared calling. Next week, believe it or not, we mark the 2nd anniversary of the Union, a hugely significant moment in all our lives and in our story. And as we've discovered, bringing 9 congregations together, spiritually, practically, and financially, takes time. It takes patience, it takes prayer, it takes generosity. And so, over the 2 years, we have begun growing into something new. And it felt to us as a ministry team and as a stewardship team that now was the right time to step back and ask, where have we come from? Who are we now? And where is God leading us next? And so, as I begin, we say a short prayer. Living Lord, as we come into your presence to reflect today, help us to listen to the words spoken, and through them and the pictures and the details shared, to hear you calling us afresh, guiding us and leading us forward. Amen. You can see the plan on the screen today, and if you go on to the next slide, Martin, our campaign theme, as you've heard over the last few weeks, just leave it there, that's fine, is belong, believe, and build God's kingdom. We're going to look at what it means to belong to the church family, what we believe God is calling us to do, and how we hope to build for the future. And I am also, now that we're able to, going to speak honestly about finances, because if we're serious about belonging, believing, and building, practical realities matter too. But it's not just about money, it's how we share responsibility for the life and mission of the church, how we each play our part. So today we invite you to see that bigger picture. But first of all, just stop for a few moments to consider, why do Christians give at all? Psalm 24, which was on one of the opening slides, is a good summary. We believe that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. He created us and it. John's Gospel on your screen says that through him all things were made, and without him nothing was made that has been made. So if everything that we have comes from God, what do we do with what we've been given? With time, with talent, yes, with funds too, but more holistically, the way we live our lives. There are lots of quotes from famous people who evidence that giving of all of these things is good for us. Winston Churchill said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." And Mahatma Gandhi said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." And I suspect that all of us here today can think of occasions when we've organised things for a church event or for a community event around the town, and the stress of organising it and the hours spent on it have caused us quite a lot of grief, and we've thought, will people turn up? Will this be a success? Will they enjoy it? Why did I say yes to doing this? But in the vast majority of cases, we find that ultimately, when things go well, there is a sense of relief, a sense of satisfaction, as relationships are strengthened, as maturity and understanding of younger members develops, and as faith blossoms. Living generously with all that we have in response to God's love to us blesses us at least as much as those that we seek to serve. And so, the stewardship team, thank you, reflected on the work of the Kirk session. Last November we had a day's Kirk session, and we looked at all the activities that we do as a church family currently and what we might like to do. And we summarised it in 3 ways: belong, believe, and build God's kingdom. So we're going to look at each in turn. So let's go on, first of all, to belonging. Thank you, Martin. Belonging is at the heart of the gospel. And we've looked over the last few weeks at how Jesus welcomed people, at how he cared for them, how he made them part of a community where they were loved and valued. And most of you were probably here with me when Andy McLean spoke 3 weeks ago about the support and encouragement he had from the groups that he attends. And if you think about it for yourselves, I'm sure you too can remember times and occasions when you felt particularly welcomed and loved. We do a lot of this week by week in our cuppies, in our lunches, in the whole host of interest groups that there are across the church family. Importantly, we also do it in our flower ministry and in our pastoral visits. And this works for all of us who are able to be here and able to come to things week by week. But it's also important that we try to keep as many folk up to date as possible with what's happening who may not be able to get here. So we have newsletter, we have emails, and we have internet spaces. There's always more we could do. We'd like to expand the pastoral ministry. We'd like to have our buildings open more often to welcome visitors in. We'd like to provide time and space for families to come together too, to improve and increase and strengthen our feeling of belonging. And then we go on to the next slide, which is believe. Jesus asked those he gathered around him to spend time with him, to watch, to learn. And that's exactly what we do with one another, Sunday by Sunday, during weekly worship, but also in Bible study groups for all ages, in opportunities to come together for prayer, to meet in one another's homes, courses to helping us to explore our faith and the Bible more deeply, seasonal booklets for reflection like the Lent booklet, and opportunities to take time and space away, to deepen our relationship with God together. Again, you can probably think of times, courses, particular groups that you were a part of, maybe just for a season, where that has been the effect on you. As we go forward, the ministry team are looking actively at worship at different times in the week with different styles to suit all ages and stages of life today. We're also looking at bringing groups together to spend more time together. We're going to try having a day away at the beginning of March to reflect and talk together and plan ahead, and then we will extend that over time. In an ever-changing society, thank goodness that our God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Doesn't mean that everything that we do stays the same, but our message does. And lastly, we go on to build. Even when Jesus was with them, he sent the disciples out into their communities to proclaim God's love. And the early church continued that work, travelling across the whole of the Eastern Mediterranean. Our parish is big, but it's not quite that big. But part of our call is to be in it, is to be with it, is to be living lives there that reflect Jesus to others. Now, you'll know that we already do an awful lot in this area. partly thanks to the wonderful work that Carla does, 50% of which we pay for locally, but also thanks to a whole army of volunteers. Bible Alive, Bubblegum and Fluff, Easter Code, Family Fridays, FFF, Wednesday clubs, there's more than one. The list goes on. We're in our primary schools. We're very thankful that we are in our primary schools so much. We'd like to be in our secondary schools more. We'd like to offer more events, open events for our community to come into our buildings to learn more about what we do. And we'd like to have the ability to support the community more, being able to respond with new initiatives when need arises. That's a pretty quick run through. But I hope that as a stewardship, as a ministry team in Kirk Session, our hope collectively is that this helps you to reflect on the different strands that all the legacy congregations have brought into this union and gives you inspiration and ideas for the future. Now I'm going to turn to the practical side of this, how we maintain the buildings that we have and enable us to do what we do. Because practical realities are part of life and responsibility in the church. So if we go on to the next slide, please, Martin. Following the union, several of our worshipping centres, as you know, closed. A majority, but not all, of those buildings have now been sold. And when you see a slide on our investments and cash assets, you will see the effect of that on them. Over the last 2 years, this has taken a huge amount of time and dedicated effort of paid staff and of volunteers, bringing together bank accounts, financial records, roll records, communication with third parties, general trustees, surveyors, solicitors, accountants, the list goes on. What now follows is not really a summary of that, but of where we are currently, of our day-to-day income and expenditure. And it's based on the year to the 31st of August 2025. It doesn't include one-off expenditure or sales because that skews the figures. So if we go on to the next slide, this shows our income. I appreciate that for all of us, the figures are mind-boggling compared to what they were when we were looking at separate congregations. Offerings include those paid into the bank by free will envelope or by open plate, and it also includes the gift aid that we claim on them. Then the percentage of grants, well, that varies every year depending on what we're doing, but it does include an annual figure from Angus Alcohol and Drugs Partnership, which currently covers all the Havilah salaries. The hall let figure, or the percentage, is the total from all the premises that we let together. And the investment income is what we receive on interests in funds and investments largely held on our behalf by the Church of Scotland Investors Trust. Some of them being reserved for restrictive purposes, but that's the percentage of the interest that we get. We can come back if you've got questions, but I'll run through just now. Second slide, expenditure. The first thing you will notice that there is a significant deficit. Let me explain the categories here again. Giving to Grow is the monthly contribution to the national church. It used to be called Ministries in Mission and several different iterations before that. It covers 160,000 of it covers 3.5 ministries, Peter, Judith, myself, and 50% of Carla. It also covers contributions to other congregations with less sound finances and an allowance to support 121 and presbyteries, the central costs, if you like. And our total for that 12-month period was about 270,000. It's not an insignificant figure. We also pay an annual fee to Perth Presbytery for every member in our congregation. We've always done this. We did that in the old presbytery system. And for us, it's just over £10,000. The wages figure, the percentage you have for wages there, covers approximately 13 staff, administrators, cleaners, organists, and half of Carla's salary too. The premises expense percentage covers routine fabric, not one-offs, utility bills, insurance, water rates, and other charges. And administrative expenses are postage, printing, stationery, telephones, internet, and other matters, and other costs, that's a different category, relate to accountants, safe security, youth, and other expenses. These are big numbers. I appreciate that. And you may think, oh my goodness, but they are what make our mission possible. We need warm, open buildings, creating space for worship and community. We need staff to enable pastoral care, teaching, and outreach. The practical costs of running a church are the foundation that allows ministry to happen. Because we heat and maintain our buildings, toddler groups have a safe place to meet. Because we have staff, we're far better able to communicate with our membership and respond when we find out about illnesses, etc. I would say that most of this is what we have inherited and merits more detailed analysis. And I would also say that as the remaining buildings are sold, our costs will reduce as sales are complete. But the fact remains that our day-to-day expenditure is more than our income. And Martin's already got up the reason why we are surviving. As has been the case in the past, we are living off our reserves and our investments, from legacies, from sales of buildings and other things. Some of these, as you can see, are restricted for particular use. Some of it is for general purposes. You can see that we have sufficient funds to continue. We are a going concern, if you want a financial term. But not forever. What does the future hold? Where is God leading us? I said today, Genesis tells us that we are to be good stewards. It should therefore be a regular question for us to consider. Where are we using our time, our talents, and our funds? If we're to welcome other people into our buildings, if we're to increase our pastoral provision, if we're to offer all the different styles and times of worship and opportunities to deepen our faith to our community and expand what we already offer to families and schools, we all need to work together to belong, to believe, and to build God's kingdom. Hence the stewardship campaign and your part in the story. If you receive a paper magazine, some point during this week, you will be getting a stewardship pack through, a brochure, a response card, and a letter. If you get it by email, then you can pick them up on your way out. We have spare packs. Summarizes an awful lot of what I've said today, but it also asks you to prayerfully consider how God is inviting you and each one of us to invest in our shared mission of belonging, believing, and building. We would like you to think about regular giving if you don't give on a regular basis, simply because it's easier for us to budget. It's easier for the finance group to work out where our income will be. And please, if you haven't gift aided before and you do pay tax, please consider it, because it costs you nothing extra and it allows us to claim 25% of what you give. This afternoon, or this, yes, maybe, no, morning, I have talked about vision, about reality, and our responsibility. But I hope that you will also have hope, because God has been faithful to his church in the past. He is at work among us now. And with our continued prayer and courage and generosity, God will continue to lead us forward. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for considering how you will respond. What would you like to ask me? I'm happy to take questions. Malcolm.
What the income is generated from letting all, etc. How much of that, that's 12.1%,
Yeah.
how much of that percentage is generated by the letting of the building at the church hall?
I'm going to repeat the question in case you didn't hear Malcolm. He says, the 12% that I showed you of the letting income that we have, which is across our buildings, he asked me how much of it is generated by Oldham Abbey church halls. I'm going to be completely honest and say that I can't give you the answer off the top of my head, or can I? Well, I can't give it you off the top of my head. I might have the answer on my phone. So I'll come back to you on that. I know that the costs are more than the income, but that's not what you're asking me. You're asking me about a total percentage. So I'll get that for you. Yeah, I have got that in an email. Yeah. You're all very quiet. Well, drink your coffees then. I'm not disappearing. I am going to Freakham, but somebody else is conducting worship, so I don't need to be there immediately. If you don't want to ask a question to the front, please come and ask me a question, or amongst yourselves, if you've had a conversation and you want to talk about it, then please don't hesitate to come and speak to me. I hope, as much as anything, that this has given you more of an idea of how things are, because the set of accounts that is now produced is complicated. I appreciate that, and perhaps it's not everybody's understanding, but I'm hoping that this has made things slightly clearer. Would you like to put the last slide on, please, Malcolm? Where's that, folks? I'm going to look up Malcolm's answer. Where do you think it is?